So, last time on Ashes of Middenheim, the session ended with the group in something of disarray. Heinrich, Thomas, and Durak were lying beaten and bruised in the beastman's clearing. Meanwhile, Alariel and Thomas had both run off, and the beastman had given chase. They're chasing after the chaos artifact that Alariel was carrying. Alariel's elven agility and reflexes helped her in the chase. She managed to get off several volleys of arrows, and her knowledge of the woodland enabled her to find a ford over a stream, which enabled her to escape pretty quickly from the chasing beastmen. Caspar, meanwhile, had a more hard time of it. They were hot on his heels for most of the time. He did manage to buy himself some extra time by throwing down the sword of the Chaos Warrior that they'd found in the tomb behind them, and the beastmen lost some time as they stopped to argue and fight over who claimed the prize. Eventually, though, Caspar did manage to elude them and give them the slip, and Alariel and Caspar managed to meet up once more in the Drakwold. Once together, they decided the best course of action was to get their bronze skull, the chaos artifact that the beastmen were after, back to Middenheim into safety as soon as possible. So they immediately headed off in the direction of Middenheim as quickly as possible, not stopping to rest, moving all night. Meanwhile, the rest of the party back at the Beastman clearing managed to use up their remaining healing salves and were patching themselves up when a wolf appeared at the edge of the forest, a large wolf with glowing eyes. The wolf led them limping through the Drakwold and seemed to be leading them off to safety. Meanwhile, the bronze skull, the chaos artifact, was giving Alariel and Caspar problems. It began emitting a high-pitched wailing sound, an alarm-like sound which called forth beastmen from the forest. It seemed the chaos artifact wanted to get itself found. Fortunately, though, the rest of the group were not far away. It seemed that the wolf had been leading them towards their location. They heard the sound of the alarm and the sounds of battle with the beastmen and moved in to join in the battle, and soon the party were getting the upper hand on the beastmen. The sound of the fighting, however, drew more than just the beastmen. A coachman who was lost in the Drakwold, a dwarf named Aragim, heard the sound of fighting and moved to investigate and assisted the party with his blunderbuss. With the beastmen dispatched, and despite being fatigued and a number of the party carrying grave injuries, the group decided to continue onwards to try and get the artifact away from the forest and into safety. As the golden light of dawn began to lighten the Drakwold forest, the group came across a band of 3 men, a man going by the name of Matthias, Jacob, and Ulrich. The 3 men turned out to be witch hunters of the Order Fidelis. They'd heard of the party's recent exploits in Middenheim, destroying the Skaven cell and the like, and they had decided to investigate them and find out what they were up to. Luckily for the party, the 3 witch hunters offered to help to escort them back to Middenheim and to safety. With 4 additional members to the group, the journey to Middenheim went much smoother, and Thomas spent some time talking to Matthias about religion, specifically the art of being a witch hunter, and expressed some interest in the Order Fidelis himself. Once in Middenheim, the group parted ways with the witch hunters, and the heroes made their way immediately straight to the Temple of Ulrich to get the Chaos Skull to safety. Father Ranulf and an assistant priest met them at the temple and took the skull and placed it in a lead-lined box for safekeeping, and they were to research the destruction of the Chaos artifact, perhaps by placing it into the flame of Ulrich itself. However, what happened next was most shocking. As the party were being debriefed and were being treated to drinks in Father Ranulph's office, one of his assistants began to gurgle and his body started to melt, twist, transform, his bones crunching and snapping, and he transformed into a creature of chaos, a chaos spawn before them. Despite being wounded and fatigued, the party were quick to react and a fight broke out, a tough fight, but eventually the Chaos Spawn was defeated. The troubles weren't over though, as the sound of a disturbance out in the corridor led them to believe there's more trouble within the temple. Racing out into the corridor to investigate, the heroes discovered that the temple's kitchen staff had also begun to mutate and were armed themselves with various improvised weapons from the kitchen. The heroes moved quickly though and managed to put down these additional mutants rather quickly. An investigation afterwards revealed that all the people who had mutated had recently drunk water from the temple's wells, and Ilariel used her knowledge of herbalism to check the water in the well and found out that it got a green, gritty, powdery-like substance that had been added to it. The heroes were then called to the office of Deputy High Priest Leibniz, who was in control of the Ulrican Church, the Ulrican faith, while the actual High Priest Ulrich, was away fighting the Chaos host in the north. Leibniz was most concerned about the discovery of Warpstone in the temple, and was worried that this attack, this poisoning of the well in the Temple of Ulrich, could be a prelude to a wider attack upon the wells in Middenheim. And so, as the heroes had proved themselves trustworthy in returning the Chaos artifact and also highly capable, he asked them to research and try and find out whether the other wells were indeed in danger and whether there was a Chaos cult active within the city.